most of y'all know, the fire type is my favorite typing of them all. Coming out with cool Pokemon like this one, but also coming out with abominations like this one. Yes, you Simisear. But y'all know I am not interested in a beauty contest. I am interested to see if they can beat a Hardcore Nuzlocke. Not only that, but one on challenge mode. Now our roster is looking a little done sparse. Mainly because we are playing Pokemon Black 2 and a lot of the fire type encounters are White 2 exclusive. But yes Lord, let's see if I can beat a Pokemon Black 2 challenge mode Hardcore Nuzlocke just using fire types. Now off the rip, we need to meet up with Bianca because in this challenge we can keep our starter that ends up being a Tepig that we named Zuko. Zuko does have a plus speed minus special defense nature, which could prove very useful for the early game. While trying to start our escapade, Hugh challenges us to battle, or should I say poo. This fight is really underwhelming with us just slamming Oshawott with tackle, but we end up taking home the win with half HP remaining. And you are? Oh, just a man minding his business. Oh, no. So you're Yurd from Aspertia City. Bro, if you don't get away from me in the next 5 seconds, I'm calling the cops. Now with challenge mode active on this game, each gym leader gets an additional Pokemon versus normal mode where Charon would just have 2. And we have to beat all 3 with this stinky little booger. But let's just hope that Zuko's fiery spirit doesn't get extinguished by Charon's normal types. Charon starts the battle with Patrat as I lead with Zuko. We start by hitting Patrat with the tackle to half as it does a bit less with its own tackle. We really don't have a choice here, so Patrat and I keep slugging it out with tackles till we eventually take it out with 23 HP remaining after level up. Now right here, this level up is what I needed because at level 15, Zuko can learn the move Flame Charge, which is not only a great stab move, but also boosts my speed as well. What I wasn't accounting for was Lillipup outspeeding, so after getting hit to 8 HP in the red with tackle, we can hit it with a Blaze boosted Flame Charge to around a quarter and boosting our speed in the process. This means that we can narrowly outspeed on the next turn and KO with one more Flame Charge. Well, this just leaves Charon's final Pokemon, Pidove. But the Fire Nation's power reigns supreme as Zuko outspeeds, destroying that Tweety bird with a Flame Charge crit for the Dubski. I jumped out of my seat when we hit that crit. I guarantee that is the only way we won that battle, but first badge down, let's get it. Y'all know the battle was crazy if you saved the game immediately after. After that, we hit up Burbank City and oh, come on, bruh. Save the drama for the next main character. Now, the great thing about this complex is that it holds our next encounter. We have a 25% chance to catch a Magby or a 20% chance to catch a Growlithe. And y'all, it was the latter because we ended up running into a Magby, and this kind of sucks because Growlithe was our only way to access Intimidate. But I don't care, Magby's cute. Welcome to the team, Azula. As we are training up for the next gym cap, our amazing starter's fiery spirit amplified, leading him to evolve into a Pig Knight. Now, Roxy's team is filled with very physically defensive Pokemon. Not only that, but her strat is to poison you and to boost the power of her move, Venoshock. I basically just racked my brain on how this might go because this is more or less a coin flip. But y'all know how much I love to gamble, so let's put it all on red. Roxy starts the battle with Coughing as I lead with Zuko. On the first turn, we outspeed, hitting Coughing to above half with a Flame Charge as it uses Venoshock, but for not much. Foreseeing a 3-hit KO, I use a Flame Charge, but we just end up getting a crit so we can take out Coughing. Her next Pokemon is a Grimer, and for the life of God, I don't know why I used Return here. But I am very glad I did because we can slam Grimer with a crit return for the KO over it. This just leaves our final Pokemon, Whirlipede, that is a bug type, so it's weak to our fire moves. Now, Whirlipede's defensive stat is something to write home about because it can survive a Flame Charge on over half thanks to its Citrus Berry. This gives it passage to hit us with a Venoshock, but it only brings us to half. Whirlipede then protects, and on the next turn, we are able to KO with Ember? Okay, well, that's fine. We can survive with... Bro, why do I do this to myself? You know, this is just one of those battles where ego took over and a double crit will do that for sure. Yes, Azula can KO Whirlipede with a few embers, but I don't think I can progress without my future leader of the Fire Nation. So to prolong the inevitable, which is PokeStar Studios, I go ahead and restart the game. With a fresh reset and a new Zuko broski, we can see that this one has a neutral nature, which are great for Nuzlocks. This proves very effective in Charon's battle, and also I switched up my strat a little bit just by using a few defense curls in the beginning. This will leave Patrat and Lillipup stuck using workup, so Zuko can just run away with the game once again just by spamming Flame Charge. We then go ahead and pick up another Magby, evolve Zuko, and head straight into the gym. Now this go around with Roxy, I don't think we're gonna get as lucky as we did the first battle, but I know my fire types reign strong. She sends out Coughing as we lead with Zuko, and on the first turn we hit it to about the same range as last time with a Flame Charge as it does around the same with a Venoshock. We then slam it to the red with another Flame Charge as it brings us to half with one more Venoshock. Looks like our luck is tarnished because we get the lowest possible roll with Flame Charge, so Coughing can break our Oranberry with another Venoshock. This is looking really bad because now Coughing is in potion range and our Flame Charge is looking like a 3-hit KO. We hit another Flame Charge to a quarter and Pig Knight needs to survive one more Venoshock, and it does on 12 HP, so one more Flame Charge KOs that thing. Well, this is looking kinda grim, mainly because she still has 2 bulky Mons in the back and I have a Pokemon that's barely a fart. Azula then uses a Fire Spin that does some good damage and will do residual damage over time as Grimer just uses a Disable. This will allow us to outspeed with Ember, and Azula gets a crit. Not only that, but we get the burn. So after getting hit with a weak Venoshock, the spin and burn damage can KO the rest of Grimer's health. Well, I guess our luck isn't completely ran dry because now we are facing her last mom, Whirlipede. Whirlipede protects on the first turn, so on the next turn we can slam it to over half with Ember as it hits us with a Venoshock, but we reverse some of the damage with an Oranberry. We then bring it to the red with another Ember, and after tanking one more Venoshock on 16 HP, Azula, my knight in shining armor, can take home the dub with one more Ember. Let's go. We beat the gym and Deathless. That was insane for no reason. After facing the wrath of Mr. Studio, stupid name by the way, we can make our track to Castelia City. When we get here, this amazing clown will give us our beloved bicycle. Never judge a book by its cover. Pooh and I then take out the Team Plasma Grunts that are in the sewers, and this will now unlock some new encounters for us. And if we run around in the Castelia City Garden for 30 minutes, I am not joking, this took 30 minutes, we can net ourselves an Eevee who we named Sozin. Now, Sozin isn't going to provide us much firepower, well, because it's not a fire type yet. But we can head over to Route 4 where we can catch ourselves a legitimate encounter in Darumaka that we named Ty Lee. But the gifts don't stop there. Since we have seen over 40 Pokemon, this researcher will give us the Eviolite. The Eviolite is an item that boosts defensive stats of unevolved Pokemon by 50%, so I think y'all know where this is going. You see, Berg's team has buffed a little bit just by giving Leavanny Aerial Ace. This is why we needed the Eviolite just in case if things went south quick. Berg starts the battle by sending out Dwebble as I lead with Zuko holding Eviolite. We start the battle by chipping Dwebble with a Flame Charge, boosting our speed in the process as Dwebble just uses a Rock Polish. This is actually okay. As long as Dwebble doesn't attack us that often, we can just set up our speed stat more and more. It does go for another Rock Polish, leaving it at +4 speed, so it will outspeed on the next turn using a Rock Blast, but it just hits us twice. We then bring it to the red with another Flame Charge, also boosting our speed to +3. Now Berg will Hyper Potion here, but that will let us get off 2 free Flame Charges as Dwebble just sets up a Rock Polish, so one more Flame Charge can KO the Dweeble. Up next is Berg's Carablast that just gets immediately pulverized by a Flame Charge. This will now send out Berg's biggest threat, Leavanny. Since we have all those Flame Charge boosts, we outspeed and somehow Leavanny survives a 4x super effective Flame Charge and lands a 55% accurate Grass Whistle. I was seeing if we could get a first turn wake up, but that was a bad move because we were in crit range of an Aerial Ace. I just switch out Ty Lee that gets hit to over half with an Aerial Ace, and now I'm thinking I'm going to have to make a sacrifice. I just send out Azula, and by the grace of Arceus, Leavanny uses a Grass Whistle and misses. This means all we gotta do is tank an Aerial Ace to half and then take out Leavanny's remaining health with a Flame Burst. Berg's last mon is a Shellmint that does end up tanking a Flame Burst in the red, but it just guts off a curse. So one more Flame Burst gives us a well-deserved gym badge. I've been waiting for you.
That's exactly what the Undertaker told John Cena.
Now Colress is a snooze fest, well, because he only has steel types. The most he can get off is a Thunder Wave, but that doesn't mean a thing with Zuko on the field, so a few flame charges later, Zuko can just clean up the battle. After defeating Colress, this will give us access to the desert resort, where we can find ourselves a Firestone. When I pull up to Joint Avenue, this dude said sub for Mo. Please subscribe, I'm dropping this on my birthday. We almost at 1K. We then hit up the Lost Thorn Forest for one of the most OP Pokemon of all time. If we run around till the grass is shaking ass, we can have a 10% chance to find a Pansear. Now since we caught Pansear, I have a very not so hard decision to make here. Since we only have one Firestone, I can either evolve Eevee or Pansear. But since Pansear gets better level up moves as we progress, I just go ahead and evolve Eevee to give us the great defensive presence of Flareon. But the evolutions don't stop there. Since Sozin has reached level 30, we can evolve her into a beastly Magmar. This will definitely give us more firepower, no pun intended, going into Elisa and her electric types. Elisa sends out Amalga as I lead with Azula. Now, Elisa loves to do this fun little thing where she spams Volt Switch the whole time, but she ends up going for a pursuit as we land a huge blow with Flame Burst. We then hit a Flame Burst that omegally low rolls, but that doesn't matter because after Elisa Hyper Potions, 2 more Flame Bursts can take out Amalga. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but next up is the vein of my existence, Flaffy. Now, Flaffy's whole gimmick is it wants to paralyze you, either with its ability Static or a move called Thunder Wave. Either way, I need Azula not paralyzed, but just in case, I send out Ursa and get immediately parried. I then just switch back in Azula, and Azula tanks the incoming Volt Switch really well since it's holding the Eevee alive. This will switch in Joltik, and since we aren't paralyzed, that means we outspeed, so one Flame Burst will take care of that thing. Now Flaffy comes back out and I use a Confuse Ray on it and it ends up staying confused. This is great because now Flaffy is status as I switch out Ty Lee, but wouldn't it be my luck if Flaffy broke out of confusion and Thunder Wave Ty Lee? But while y'all weren't looking, I added a bit of spice to Ty Lee by teaching it the Dig TM we found. The only downer of using this move is it does take 2 turns to set up this move. This is living proof by us going underground as Flaffy stays confused and then we get paralyzed. Now Flaffy does go for a Volt Switch here, sending out Zebstrika as we go underground. This is kind of clutch because we have a 50-50 shot of KOing this thing, and dear God, Ty Lee had us in the first half but came through in the second, destroying Elisa's ace with a single dig. This just leaves our Flaffy that we save Zozin for this entire time to tank a Volt Switch and then KO with a final dig. This right here has earned us our 4th gym badge of the run. I wonder if people look at us and think we're a couple. Lady, sorry, but I'm married to the grind. Bro, I need to stop getting on this Ferris wheel. Now, as many of y'all know, the next gym we need to take on is a ground type gym leader, and frankly, we have no coverage, so that just means we need to do some preparations. First and foremost, we need to get our Pokemon to the level cap of 36, and while grinding up to that cap, our starter Zuko evolves into an Emboar. Not only that, but immediately after, our amazing Ty Lee evolves into its final form, a monstrous Darmanitan. We then pick up an amazing item in the Expert Belt that boosts the power of super effective moves, and then we also pick up the most crucial item up until this point, the Air Balloon. The Air Balloon is like the ability Levitate that makes us immune to ground moves, but if we get hit with a physical contact move of any kind that isn't ground, then the balloon pops. Let's just hope all this preparation gets us the dub. Clay sends out Krokorok as we lead with Azula. We end up outspeeding and nuke Krokorok to the red with a Lava Plume as Krokorok hits us to half with a Bulldoze. I really thought Clay was going to burn a Hyper Potion here, which is why I switched into Zuko, but he doesn't and just ends up setting up Sandstorm. that is still totally cool because that just means our air balloon is still intact, so one flame charge can take out his Croc Rock. Now, next up on the totem pole is his Onyx, and Onyx's whole thing is if his HP gets too low, he just ends up using the move Explosion. Fortunately though for us, we knock Onyx to the red with an arm thrust, which burns Clay's Hyper Potion. So this just means that we can get off 2 consecutive arm thrusts to take out his Onyx. This means his Sand Slash is up next, and we outspeed and... I was not expecting a crit there, but I'll take it. This just leaves Clay's final Pokemon, Excadrill, and our air balloon is still intact, people. I don't know what Zuko ate today, but he clearly had his Wheaties because he slams Excadrill down to a quarter with arm thrust as he dodges a rock slide. That just means no matter what, Excadrill is in range of a 2-hit KO from arm thrust. This goes ahead and earns us our 5th gym badge of the run. Now that we have beaten the gym, we can finally use our Strength HM to access a specific part of the Relic Castle. If we maneuver around this specific segment, we can net ourselves an amazing addition to the team of Volcarona. And y'all, for a Pokemon that has the weakest moveset of all time, I cannot believe it took over 50 Ultra Balls to catch this thing. We do end up finally catching it though, and we name it Iroh. Now we do have to take on the Pokemon tournament here, but honestly my Pokemon's levels exceed everyone else's by 10, so we get through that pretty easily and the Team Plasma Grunts. But you know what isn't going to be easy is beating Skyla's team. Not only does she have a Swanna that could easily sweep my team with Surf, but she has 2 Psychic types and a bulky Skarmory for the cherry on top. All this means is we have a lot of errands to run. The first thing we conquer is catching one of my top 3 favorite Pokemon ever, a Litwick that we named Zayo. After catching him, we grind him up to level 41 to evolve him into a Lampent. Now, even though we have this encounter, I still don't think this will be enough to beat Skyla. So I take the time to run around in the Chargestone Cave in search of a Firestone. If we run around till the dust clouds appear, there is a 10% chance to find one. I do this so we can finally slap Ursa in the face with it to evolve him into a Simisear. This will definitely help us with the bulk portion of our team, but will it be enough to beat Skyla? She starts off the battle by sending out her Swoobat as I lead with Azula. Azula is holding Eviolite, so that incoming acrobatics doesn't do a whole lot as we launch Swoobat to the red with a feint attack. This right here will proc Skyla to use a Hyper Potion, so I set up our secret weapon, Sunny Day. After tanking in acrobatics, this will not only boost the power of our fire-type moves, it will actually reduce the power of water-type moves, prepping us for her Swanna. Between the Eviolite and Sunny Day, we can tank 1 Surf, letting us get off a sun-boosted Lava Plume that not only brings Swanna to half, but it gets the burn. This is definitely more than I could have asked for, so I switch into Ursa to tank the incoming Surf. I just need Ursa to survive 1 more, and she does on 10 HP and gets off a Rock Tomb to bring Swanna in range to be taken out with the burn damage. We are not completely out of the clear though because her next Mon is her Sigilif. I go ahead and get Ursa out of there, pivoting into Sozin, and he just has to tank a weak Flash Cannon. That wasn't the case scenario for the next turn because we get slammed to half with Psychic and it drops our special D as we do about over half with Bite. I switched in Tylee that does get nuked to below half with Psychic, but we outspeed, so 1 Flare Blitz is enough to KO Sigilif. This just leaves our final Pokemon, Skarmory, and I have an amazing Pokemon to counter this thing in Zayo. Zayo tanks an Aerial Ace on the switch, but we get off a Flame Burst to break Skarmory's sturdy as it just uses agility. Long story short, we tank 1 more Aerial Ace and then Zayo can take us home with 1 final Flame Burst, giving us a well-deserved Dubski. After taking home the badge, we hop on this plane to make it to Lentimus Town. This town provides us 2 very crucial items for Zayo. We go ahead and traverse over to the creepy house to pick up the Shadow Ball TM and the Dusk Stone.
An everlasting dark dream, an endless dream of darkness. Dad, Mom, Abra, where are you?
Yeah, okay, that. We then travel high and low, facing some very formidable trainers along the way, but none of them could take out the Fire Squad. This means that we have made it to Opelucid City, where we are planning on facing Drayden and his dragon types. Now, Drayden, unlike any gym we have faced up until this point, resists all of our fire moves. And not only that, he has a huge buff on his team with his dragon and ground type Flygon. I kind of have a decent plan going into this, but it's going to require a lot of luck. I just want to say I am sorry for the editing issues, but we did end up evolving Zayo right before this with the Duskstone we fell. My fault? Alright, back to the battle. Drayden sends out Druddigon as we lead with Zayo. Now, when y'all heard luck at the beginning of this battle, we are going to need all 75% of it when we use this Will-O-Wisp, and yes, we get the burn. This means when Druddigon uses a crunch, it only knocks us to over half. I end up staying in and use a Shadow Ball that nukes Druddigon to a quarter as it slams us to the red with another crunch. Seeing that Zayo has done its job, I switch into Azula with Eviolite that tanks the incoming crunch perfectly. Drayden then goes for a Hyper Potion here as we use a Confuse Ray to status this thing further. All this setup is so we can set up the sun with Sunny Day, but Druddigon breaks through confusion, hitting us with a Rock Slide to half. I then pop off a Flamethrower that does a good chunk of damage, but more importantly, Druddigon stays confused and burned. This means we are all set up to send out Ursa, and when we do, Druddigon fortunately succumbs to the confusion. This will send out Drayden's Flygon, but Ursa has one job, destroying that thing with a Fire Gem boosted Fire Blast. Okay, well, I thought Ursa had that, but holy crap, he survived the Earth Power on 15 HP. This will allow him to outspeed and KO with an Acrobatics. This will send out Drayden's Altaria, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but we don't have to sack Ursa yet. I switch into Sozin that has more than enough Special D to tank a Dragon Pulse on the way in. Altaria ends up using a Cotton Guard that doesn't matter for us since we end up using a Shadow Ball that gets the special defense drop. Altaria is still insisting on using Cotton Guard, so we keep launching Shadow Balls at it till it's at above a quarter. Now the good news is Altaria misses a Sing, so we can get off a Sunny Day. The bad news is it does hit the Sing on the next turn. I really don't have a choice here because I need my last two Pokemon for Haxorus, and if we can't wake up in time, I'm going to have to let go of Sozin. But that's not happening today because Sozin woke up at the most crucial time, slamming Altaria with a final Shadow Ball. This just leaves Drayden's ace, Haxorus. Now right here, I'm going to use Azula's body real quick for science. I had a feeling since we were so low in HP that he was going to use Dragon Tail switching in Ty Lee. I either needed him or Emboar to be in this spot because we can unleash a Flare Blitz that does a ton of damage as Haxorus just uses a Dragon Dance. But even though Haxorus is at +1, I have a plus speed nature, so I can outspeed and KO with one final Flare Blitz. This right here will give us our 7th gym badge of the run. Following the battle, Team Plasma starts shooting up the city in a flying ship with ice beam cannons. Seems legit. We do, however, have to take on Zizzlin and his full team of ice types, but come on guys, this is like a coughing baby versus a hydrogen bomb. But the worst has yet to come. When I was in a battle with one of the Shadow Triad, his Absol ended up outspeeding and taking the life of our beloved Sozin. This was absolutely heartbreaking. Not only was it our first death on the board, but more than that, after all we have gone through in this run, and a crit from Night Slash took him out, absolutely tragic. But I know Sozin's fiery spirit is going to be there cheering us on as we continue this challenge. Now looking at what we have coming up, the 8th gym leader is Marlin, and as some of y'all know, he is a water type gym leader. The best plan I have cultivated so far is mainly surrounding the move Thunder Punch. By picking up 10 red shards, we can exchange them to the move tutor to teach Emboar and Magmar this move. All this preparation will lead us to Marlin. He starts the battle by sending out Wailord as we lead with Zuko. On the first turn, we outspeed doing a ton of damage with Thunder Punch as Wailord just sets up the rain. I am absolutely cool with him doing that because this turn Marlin will Hyper Potion, so that will give me a free turn to set up with Workup. This in return will allow us to outspeed and get the range over the KO of Wailord. Now up next is his Carracosta, and we don't want him to start setting up shell smashes because he can just run away with the game. So I keep up the pressure by using an arm thrust that brings him to above a quarter as he sets up a shell smash. This move is kind of tricky because it will boost the speed stat by 2 stages. But fortunately for us, Carracosta is super slow with a base stat of 30, so even though his speed stat is stacked by 2 stages, we can outspeed and take him out with a single Thunder Punch. Up next is Mantine, Zuko's biggest fear, so I switch into Azula to tank the incoming Scald. I really wanted to set up with Sunny Day here, but I just go for the 4x super effective Thunder Punch that ends up getting the KO over Mantine. This just leaves us Jellicent, so I pivot into Iroh that tanks a mean Scald to a quarter. Long story short, I need this light screen up, so I use it, and miraculously, Iroh survives the next Scald on 3 HP in the red. We are almost out of the clear, so I switch into Zeo that tanks a very weak energy ball on the switch. Zeo being on the field means that we can set up a Sunny Day, and in combination of that and light screen, Jellicent's water moves aren't going to be doing that much. This will officially pave the way for our dear starter Zuko to tank a Shadow Ball on the switch and then end the battle with a critical hit Thunder Punch. This right here, ladies and gents, just earned us our 8th and final gym badge. After that, we find this not so conspicuous ship, but inside of it will hold the key that we will need to get through the rest of the run. If we head downstairs and run into this back room, we can find ourselves the Magmarizer. The Magmarizer will do one thing and one thing only, and that is to slap this thing on Azula and trade her so she can evolve into a Magmortar. We definitely needed this buff and power going into the battle with Chorus because even though he has basically all steel types, they are all stacked with new moves and items. Chorus starts the battle with Eviolite Magneton as we lead with Zeo. On the first turn, I set up Sunny Day as Magneton does what he does best, paralyzing us with Thunder Wave. Magneton then Volt switches out, doing above half to Zeo. This will then prompt Chorus to send out Metang, but Zeo breaks through the paralysis, melting the Metang with a sun-boosted Flame Burst. His next mon is Kling Klang, so I pivot into Iroh as it just uses a shift gear. Kling Klang does outspeed now, but it just uses another shift gear as we nuke it to the red with a Fire Spin. This does make Chorus want to go for a full restore, but I just go ahead and set up a light screen. Now, setting up this light screen was kind of a bad idea because this is going to make Kling Klang want to use that +2 Giga Impact. It ends up landing it when we switch into Azula, but Azula tanks it on 8 HP in the red. I just switch into Zuko on Kling Klang's recharge turn, and then Kling Klang uses another shift gear so we can knock it to the red with an arm thrust. I have no choice but to stay in, and Zuko eats the incoming Giga Impact on 75 HP and can finish off Kling Klang with one more arm thrust. This next sends out Magnezone, so I switch into Iroh that gets immediately paralyzed on the switch. We then tank a discharge to over half and then end up setting up a light screen to tank these discharges better. Magnezone then goes for another discharge and it doesn't do that much, so we can counter with a Fire Spin that gets a crit. This is amazing because not only will it bring Magnezone down to sturdy, the residual damage will KO it after the fact. Next up is BM that ends up setting up a Calm Mind that does allow it to survive our Silver Wind on around a quarter. I really didn't want to risk a crit here, but I have to go for it, and BM lands a Psychic, but Iroh survives it and is able to take it out with one more Silver Wind. Last up is his Eviolite Magneton, so I switch into Ursa that has to tank a very weak Volt Switch thanks to Light Screen. We then bring Magneton to sturdy with a dig as it paralyzes us with a Thunder Wave, but that was a lost cause because Simisear can tank one more Volt Switch and then take home the win with the final acrobatics. Now this will push us through to a battle I have been dreading with Getsis. Getsis is absolutely stacked with 5 Pokemon that can hit mine super effectively, and not only that, he's got a Life Orb Druddigon. Are you kidding me? Before we get into any of that, we have a battle with Kyurem, but that was very easily managed with Zeo just hitting it twice with Shadow Ball. Yeah, and that's my reaction too, because this will finally pivot us into the battle with Getsis. He starts the battle with his Cofagrigus as we lead with Zeo, and on the first turn, we outspeed with a Spell Tag boosted Shadow Ball that can immediately one-hit KO Cofagrigus. This will send out one of his biggest threats, Seismitoad. This thing can hit us hard on the special and physical side, and there is really no point in using a Sunny Day or a Will-O-Wisp. So I lock in a Shadow Ball that does around a quarter and lowers his special D as it uses an Earthquake, but Zayo survives it on 22 HP. I genuinely thought we lost Zayo there, but fortunately for us, after gets his full restores, we can just take him out with one more Shadow Ball. This will next send out Drapion, so I switch into Ty Lee that barely hangs on after getting hit with Earthquake. My counts say I need a high roll to KO, so we lock it in and we end up getting a crit anyways with Bulldoze. Hydreigon is up next, but Ty Lee is a speed demon, absolutely slamming him with a hammer arm for the one-hit KO. His second to last mon is an Electros, so I pivot into Azula to tank a Thunderbolt on the switch. We then use a flamethrower that brings Electros to the red as it uses an acrobatics to bring us to a quarter. But fortunately, we outspeed so we can KO Electros with one more flamethrower. Gets' last mon is a Toxicroak, so I switch into Zuko to tank a poison jab to above half. We then use Bulldoze to bring him to a quarter and to drop his speed as he brings us to a quarter with Poison Jab and gets the poison. Thinking he's gonna go for a Sucker Punch, I switch into Ursa, but nope. He uses a Poison Jab and ends up getting a critical hit to take out our beloved Ursa. I genuinely thought he was going to use Sucker Punch. Emboar was definitely in range of one, and we dropped his speed, so that would have procced him to use it. All in all, we did end up defeating Getsis with one final Fire Spin, but it came at a not so huge cost. The reason why is at the beginning of Victory Road will give us a very necessary HM in Waterfall. This TM will get us over a hump of the game so we can make it to the Abundant Shrine. In this area, we have a 10% chance to catch our final encounter in Vulpix that we catch and name Anji. We then mainly go ahead and EV invest him into HP and special attack, and then we go ahead and slap it with a Firestone to evolve it into a majestic Ninetales. At the end of Victory Road, we have our final battle with Pooh, and this dude's team was so unbelievably insane. He starts the battle with Unfezant as we lead with Azula. We start by slamming Unfezant in the face with a Thunder Punch and end up getting a paralysis as it breaks through, confusing us with Swagger. Not wanting to stay confused, I switch into Zayo hoping it goes for a Facade, but it just stays paralyzed. This means that we can just outspeed and take it out with one Flame Burst. Now up next is his Bouffalant, and thank God we outspeed because we can land a Will-O-Wisp to half his attack so we can tank the incoming Earthquake. I then switch in Azula to tank an Earthquake on the switch, and then on the next turn we set up a Sunny Day. But then Azula gets crit by Earthquake but survives on 2 HP in the red. I then just switch back into Zayo that can tank an Earthquake and then finally KO that thing with Flame Burst. Pooh's next mon is his Samurott, so I switch into Iroh to tank the Surf to half. I do fortunately outspeed here, so I go ahead and set up a light screen as we get hit to 50 HP with Surf. I go ahead and switch into Anji to tank a Surf right at half and then launch a super effective energy ball to bring Samurott to below half. I am bracing myself as the Surf hits, but Anji the big dog survives on 9 HP in the red and can finally take out Samurott with one more energy ball. This just leaves his final Pokemon a Simisage. Now y'all, the one Pokemon I have left is Emboar, but I don't have a single fire move on him. When you are running monotype runs, it is really good to have a diverse moveset on your mons, but make sure that you don't end up in a position like this where a risky play isn't necessary. Now the reason why I'm sitting here going for Scald over and over is because I am trying to fish for a burn, but that doesn't happen. At this point, I'm thinking it's the end for one of my Pokemon, but a very risky play might just save us because I have seen Simisage alternating between Rock Slide and Brick Break. That is a 50-50% chance that he will go for Brick Break, which Zayo does resist. I don't have much of an option, so I switch into him and Simisage uses Brick Break. Let's go! This means that we can go ahead and outspeed with the Flame Burst to finally take that thing off the field for our final rival fight this run. We have finally done it, y'all. We have made it to the Pokemon League. And after optimizing our movesets and climb to the level cap, this will be my final team of the run. We have Azula with Sunny Day, Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, and Hyper Beam. Anji with Hex, Extrasensory, Flamethrower, and Nasty Plot. Our starters, Zuko with Thunder Punch, Scald, Hammer Arm, and Flare Blitz. Zayo with Will-O-Wisp, Flame Burst, Energy Ball, and Shadow Ball. Ty Lee, you dirty dog, with Flare Blitz, Bulldoze, Belly Drum, and Hammer Arm. And last but certainly not least, we have Iroh with Silverwind, Light Screen, Quiver Dance, and Heat Wave. The first Elite Four member we take on is Marshall, and he sends out Throw as we lead with Anji. On the first turn, I go ahead and set up a Nasty Plot, boosting my special attack by 2 stages as Throw hits a Rock Tomb, lowering our speed. Even though we ended up getting that speed drop, we still outspeed with a Psychic Gem boosted Extrasensory to one-hit KO the Throw. This will next send out Conkeldurr that has way worse special defense than Throw, so a +2 Extrasensory KOs him as well. Now Sokka is up next, and he will outspeed with a Rock Slide, but hopefully we don't flint. Now I did sort of plan for this moment. Zuko does either resist or gets hit neutrally by Sock's moves. So after getting hit with a soft payback, we can hit Sokk with a Water Gem boosted Scald, and yes, it gets the burn. This means that Sock's attack is halved, so that incoming Brick Break really isn't going to do a thing. I then switch into Azula to tank an incoming Brick Break and then finish it off with one more Flamethrower. His second to last Pokemon is Minchow that ends up hitting me with a bounce to below half as we bring it to the red with a Flamethrower. I had a feeling Marshall was going to full restore here, so I stayed in and used another Flamethrower, and we ended up getting a higher roll to KO. This means Marshall is down to his last Pokemon, Lucario. But that was an easy pivot into Zayo that isn't affected by Aura Sphere, so one more Flame Burst gives us our first Elite Four dub. Caitlyn is up next, and she sends out her Musharna as I lead with Iroh. On the first turn, we end up outspeeding with the Light Screen as Musharna foils all my clean sweeping plans with the Hypnosis. But using Iroh really isn't the only way to get a clean sweep over Caitlyn. By slapping the Expert Belt on Zayo, we can start nuking KOs with Shadow Ball, even bulky threats like her Musharna. Her Sigilif and Gothitelle both got absolutely obliterated by a couple of Shadow Balls. Her Metagross actually does end up surviving one, but misses a Zen Headbutt, so another one takes care of that thing. And well, her Reuniclus... Houston, it smells like a coughing baby in here. Drop the hydrogen bomb. Nice. Chantal and her ghost types are up next, and she starts the battle with Cofagrigus as I lead with Iroh. We end up outspeeding, so we set up a Light Screen as Cofagrigus gets a crit with Shadow Ball, a very nice way to start this battle. Now that the first part of my plan has been activated, I go ahead and switch into Phase 2, which is Anji. All Anji's gotta do is tank one Shadow Ball and get to +4 with Nasty Plot. Now, Anji can weirdly learn the move Hex. I am definitely not complaining about that because it nearly takes out Cofagrigus in one hit. Chantal then goes ahead and full restores, which was her biggest mistake because now I can set up the +6 special attack. Anji then goes on a one-hit KO rampage, destroying everything in sight with a +6 Hex. It definitely was a close call when she sends in Chandelure that outspeeds and nearly KOs Anji with a Shadow Ball. But Anji said hold my beer and nukes that thing with a +6 Hex for the third dub over the Elite Four. Last up in the Elite Four roster is Grimsley and his Dark types, and he starts the battle with his Liepard as we lead with Chandelure. Now, I know what you're thinking, Yurd. You must have lost it this time. Why do you have a Ghost type out versus a Dark type? And the answer is quite simple. Trick Room. Trick Room is a move that basically makes slow Pokemon faster. The slower they are, the faster they become in Trick Room. This lets Pokemon like Ty Lee, who has Hammer Arm, absolutely excel when their speed stat is lower. This has proved to be effective for his first 2 Mons because Liepard does some chip with Night Slash, but a Hammer Arm seals the deal on that thing. Crocodile with Intimidate comes out next, but not even Intimidate means a thing when we outspeed with a super effective Hammer Arm. Scrafty is up next, and since Trick Room is ending the next turn, I just go ahead and switch into Zuko to tank the Resisted Crunch. We end up outspeeding, so one Hammer Arm was definitely more than enough to take out Scrafty. His second to last Mon is an Absol that does get off a Swords Dance, but Swords Dance doesn't mean a thing if you don't hit me, so one Hammer Arm takes care of that thing as well. well. Grimsley's last Pokemon is a Bisharp that definitely jump scares us with an Aerial Ace to a quarter, but that wasn't enough. So a 4-time super effective Hammer Arm just gave us our final dub over the Elite Four. This is it, y'all. We have made it to our final testament of this run. No matter what happens here, fire types have sure showed me what they've got, even if it's a semi-seer. But let's see if they got what it takes to beat the champion, Iris. Iris starts the battle with her Wise Glasses Hydreigon as I lead with Iroh. To neutralize some of that special attack damage, I use a light screen as Hydreigon knocks us to above half with Surf. Iroh is then only able to get off a Quiver Dance that boosts my special attack, defense, and speed by 1 stage as Hydreigon's Surf is getting weaker. I am not going to sit around and risk a crit on the next turn, so I just use a Silver Wind, and thank God it gets the proper range to KO Hydreigon. This will next send out her Aggron that has Muscle Band, and Aggron's special defense and speed is nothing to be desired, so a single +1 Heat Wave will KO him as well. Her Archeops is next up on the chopping block, and we use a Heat Wave to bring him to a quarter, and as I'm saying my goodbyes to Iroh, she survives a Dragon Claw? What? Archeops has Acrobatics and Stone Edge. Why it didn't use either one of those, I don't know, but we can just go ahead and KO it with 1 more Heat Wave. This will next send out Lapras, and since Iroh can't KO with a Heat Wave, I just use a Light Screen and watch as she falls to a final Hydro Pump. Rest in peace, homie. Setting up that Light Screen was crucial because it will allow Zayo to have a fighting chance versus Hydro Pump. We go ahead and nuke Lapras to a quarter with an Energy Ball as Lapras puts us to sleep with Sing. Zayo is the only thing I want on the field, and if he can't wake up in time, I'm gonna have to let him go. But at like the most pivotal moment of the battle, he finally decides to wake up at 22 HP in the red and KO Lapras with 1 more Energy Ball. This will now send out her ace, Haxorus. Now, Zayo has definitely done his job, and I'm even more ecstatic when he gets off a final Will-O-Wisp to burn Haxorus. This unfortunately will be a trade-off because he will fall to a final Earthquake. Rest in peace, Zayo. I just send out Ty Lee, and we go ahead and use a Belly Drum to max out our attack stat in exchange for half of our health as Haxorus boosts its attack and speed with Dragon Dance. I was really hoping he wouldn't do that because now he outspeeds, so unfortunately 1 Earthquake is able to take out our beloved Ty Lee. Rest in peace, big dog. Now, we did save Azula for this very moment. After surviving a very lethal Earthquake on 56 HP, we can take out the Haxorus with a normal gym boosted Hyper Beam. This will now send out Iris's final Pokemon, Life Orb Druddigon. Now, since we had to recharge, that means Azula goes down, but she isn't going down without burning Hydreigon with Flame Body. This is it. It's all up to our starter, Zuko. We go ahead and outspeed with a Flare Blitz, doing about over half as it uses an Outrage, but we survive on 80 HP. This means after clicking Flare Blitz 1 more time, we have done it. We have beaten the entire Nuzlocke challenge. Holy crap, we did it. Fire types are very powerful, and if used in the right way, the sky is the limit with them. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, and dear God, we are almost at 1K, so if you don't mind, jingle that sub bell. But until we meet next, this was a Pokemon Black 2 Fire type Hardcore Nuzlocke, and I hope to see you in my next run.